Hey everyone, it's Brandon Lee, host of the podcast Escaping Rock Bottom. Got a great podcast episode for you today and an amazing guest, somebody I've gotten to know since I've jumped kind of headfirst into the mental health game here in the Valley. JT is the Director of Clinical Outreach for Springboard Recovery. Springboard Recovery is one of our partners here at Art of Our Soul, where they actually send their members to us every Saturday for a little art healing at my studio. JT, good to see you, my friend.
My man, dude. Thanks for having me, Brandon. I really appreciate it. Like I told you before, like a little nervous, but that's great. Hopefully,
nervous is always good. I always tell people, nervous is always good.
Perfect.
It's
man.
always good. If you don't get butterflies, I tell people all the time. I knew that I was done with news when my heart rate never skipped a beat. Like it never increased when I was going on set. And that's when I told my friends, I was like, I think I'm done. I used to get excited. I used to have butterflies, and then I'd walk on set. My resting heart rate is like 40 beats per minute. And I would walk on set, and it would be 40 beats per minute. And I'm like, man, that's not a good sign.
So it's funny, you noticed that like you wanted a little bit of, like now you like that excitement. Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah.
Now. I love that excitement now. So you just joined Springboard. We'll get into Springboard in just a little bit. But first, JT, just kind of, I like my listeners and my viewers to kind of get to know you as a human first. Take me back, JT. Okay. Where were you born and raised?
All right, so I was born and raised Mesa, Arizona. Pretty much lived in Arizona my whole life, like done the traveling thing, lived a little bit in California, stuff like that. But I mean, pertaining to, what we're talking about, what we're dealing with now with mental health, substance use disorder, stuff like that. Like my own personal story, I could start back in my childhood and like how when my father passed away, it was a really traumatic experience for me. Like it really brought home that like my mortality, my stability, my life is now like up in the air, right? So like my foundation was kind of unsettled. With that, like I going throughout my teens and my high school and stuff like that, like I didn't feel a part of. I felt distant, I felt like I wanted to be a part of this crowd, and like I tried different things, but I just didn't feel like whole inside, right? So I searched.
Going back to when you lost your father at a young age. How old were you again?
7.
You were 7 years old. And what I tell people, JT, too, is that I'm of the belief, right, that unhealed trauma is the gateway to addiction and substance use. I just truly believe that. It's the unhealed trauma. I think all of us in general, everybody in the public will face some sort 100%. Of trauma in their life, but it's the unhealed trauma that eventually comes out sideways. So I say that divorce is a traumatic event for a child, right? A divorce is very traumatic. So if you're out there getting a divorce, right, 50% of all marriages end in divorce, there's a huge swath of kids who are at risk of using, right? Yeah. If those kids' needs aren't being treated and aren't being heard, the loss of a parent as a child is a traumatic event.
Right, and I didn't even understand it, right? I'm 7, I'm worried about G.I. Joes and cartoons, you know what I mean? And then the one person that like I truly love and like the rock and stuff like that is just gone, So like very, very unsettling at that age because I couldn't process, I couldn't go through it. It was just acting out, this, that, like,
When did you start acting out?
I would say probably close to 11, 12.
Okay.
Like
and what was that? What did that behavior look like? Because I do get parents that reach out to me saying, "Hey, I'm starting to see some warning signs." So I'm curious to you, what did that behavior look like at 11 and 12?
I wanted to be a part of something, right? Okay. So I looked into gangs.
Right.
So I like family, right? I wanted to feel whole, and I didn't know how. So I was searching and putting myself in situations that were a little bit more risky than I would like, right? To like feel a part of, and maybe even feel some chaos, too, because that's something, like that's something tangible that I can go cause right now. The unknown to me is scary, right? But like, with that, just acting out in school, fighting was a big one for me, Brandon. Like I'm a lover now, one size fits all hug. But
wait a second, like you are like one size fits all hug, like you hug everybody. You're super lovable.
Well, I appreciate that.
Dang, man. So you were a fighter.
Yeah, but I didn't know how to communicate my, but I got peer validation. That's another one for me. One of my character defects, validation. So I was like, cool, I'm good at this, right? Unhealthy. Like it just wasn't good to identify with that. But that was a main one, Brandon, was anger.
Anger. Okay, so I'm trying to think when I was 11, 12. So I was, molested from like the ages of 7 to 10 and also saw just a lot of abuse. Around 11 or 12, and for our viewers and listeners, JT and I are the same age. Born in the same year, 80s baby. And so it was about 11 and 12 is when I started to... I started to smoke cigarettes, and then I started drinking in junior high school at age in the 7th grade. I started drinking, and putting vodka in oranges and bringing them to school, bringing wine coolers to school, right? So that behavior is not normal for a 7th grader, and that's when my unhealed trauma started to act out in certain ways, but I was still an overachiever. So I did really well in athletics. I got great grades in school.
Yeah.
So that part never failed me. But you know what that taught me? Work hard, play hard. It was kind of like, as long as I got really good grades, as long as I excelled in sports, I didn't have any discipline.
Yeah. No, to piggyback on that, it's like, right, like I excelled at sports too, right? Which gave me that, like, okay, well, if I'm doing good over here, the teachers do help me over here.
Yep.
I miss class. I would take full advantage of all the stuff, right? Like those behaviors, addictive behaviors, were early on set on that I could get. But like you said, if I had the sports thing and the grades thing, I could kind of do this, where addicts and alcoholics and people in general, like, we are very good at doing stuff. And this, look at this, don't look at this kind of thing.
Right.
So
here's what I tell parents, right? Even if your child is great in athletics and even if they're getting straight A's, listen to both myself and JT, right?
100%.
That doesn't mean there are not other red flags.
Yep.
And don't say, oh, just because my kid's getting good grades or they do well in athletics, that there might not be something else there. Like, don't turn a blind eye to some red flag style behavior just because, and rationalize it.
Yes. Well, and it's easier, right, Brandon, to like, denial. I don't want, that's my son. He's doing great. Look at him doing that.
100%.
Daughter. You know what I mean? Like,
because
it's hard.
It's a reflection on parents. And
Yeah.
parents don't want to admit that their child may be suffering,
Yeah.
which we'll get into,
Right.
like, especially when parents dealing with their kids who are addicts and stuff. But where did it really go off the rails for you? And tell me about the kind of drug composition and what did that look like for you?
Okay, like in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Like, I could tell you about the trauma and all the events and shitty stuff I did and all that. Like, ooh, sorry I cussed, but Springboard, I love you. So like I could tell you about all that stuff, but like literally it came to a point where I was suicidal, gun to my head, like just hopeless to die. Heroin addict, right? And that's been always very hard to me in the past to admit, right? But today my pain is my power, and that's how I bridge the gap between the people that I talk to with my job. We'll get into that, but like, one event really just kind of like, it's the family that I was hurting. Like all the stuff that I just didn't know, right? Like, I got to a point where I had, it's funny, you'll see me in this. I got this nice shirt, tie, all this stuff. But I was telling Brandon that, like, literally I came into my last treatment center with 3 articles of clothing, title loan on my car, almost in jail, like a gun to my head, So, like, today I'm wearing this. It's like I want to win, And, like, it doesn't have to be at the job or anything. Like, I'm winning in my self-esteem. I'm winning in my confidence today. I'm winning in helping others. If I'm, like this, and I'm taking time to build pride in this, like, I'm probably doing something on the right track to either help somebody or one of the reasons why I broke free and became so public about my recovery and really recovering out loud is because of removing the stigma, right? Removing the stigma, but also giving hope, right? Yeah.
Also giving hope that, and like you sharing your story about where you were and what life looks like for you now, is giving hope, right, to parents who do have a son or a daughter who may be struggling right now with heroin. Meth was my drug of choice toward the end because, we can recover. It's not easy when we dip into those style drugs, right? It's hard, and
it's worth
anybody
it, though.
who tells you it's not hard, it is hard. Not everyone gets the message, and some people, like we say, some people are the message, some people get the message. But it's possible, so don't give up hope with that. The cool thing is that what I love about the treatment industry, for the most part, I would say, if I'm going to make a guess, 75 to 80% of the staff who works in a treatment facility are recovered addicts themselves. I'll tell you why that's important. You can piggyback off of this. It's important because as the people who walk, I'm not a therapist. I don't portend to be. I'm not a clinical art therapist. I do not portend to be. But I'm a peer.
Yeah.
But I'm a peer. And I think that I have the ability to cut through to another addict faster than a tech can with no lived experience of addiction.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's a unique perspective that somebody like you who works at Springboard, when you are dealing with a parent or you are dealing with an addict, you have that lived experience to say, I get you.
Yeah. And it's like one of the things you totally correct. I'm going to piggyback on that in the sense of like, I have not maybe been through the same exact experience, but I've felt the same feelings, despair, hopelessness, suicidal, all those kind of things that come with behaviors and drug addiction. And like, I get a great opportunity now, like you were bringing up the parents, right? It's like, I'm talking to these parents from the flip side and seeing like this job helps me more than I'll ever know. Right.
Right.
Like
I say the same thing.
Oh, it's phenomenal because it puts me like right face, right in front of me. Like, yo, this was you 5.5 years ago. This was you. Let's see what we can do to like have them experience. Just all I've ever wanted from somebody coming in is like, give it a chance, experience, be open, right? Like not everybody gets it on the first time, second, third, whatever that looks like, but they can. They can be like, I hear these things about like 10% recover. Like, I don't know, but be that 10%. Like stop like, and this is just me voicing it because this is what went into my head where I was like self-defeat, self-deprecation. I can't, yada, yada, yada. But like me, I should be dead. I should be in jail. I should be all these things, right? But like, I have a great life today. I am more happy than I am sad. I have bad days, everybody, right? Like, but
we all do.
And like, I can experience them with people. And,
right.
and like, so, I mean, it's just a much better on this side for me. I get the wanting to try different things and like I've been there, but like, yeah, I can't connect with that addict on the phone and the parent, to like, look, I've been in this situation, regardless if you come to treatment with us or not, right? Listen to me as an addict to an addict. Like, it doesn't have to be like this, man. If you can't get it, like like we help so many people that don't even come to us, so
yeah, I think that's that's really important too. And the crazy thing, since I've been open, my art studio's been open since November, going on 4 months here, and already I've seen about a dozen people who graduated, who were here with me in November, part of December. They graduated from their treatment center, and then I've seen them come back already. And, they all walk in and I'm like, hey, I know you. And their heads immediately go down.
Shame.
And I'm like, dude, chin up.
I love it.
Chin up. I was like, there's no shame in relapse. No shame in relapse, because this whole idea that a treatment center can fix you in 30 days and that's it.
Yeah.
Okay. It's false hope. Okay. There are so many levels of care, which we'll get into. It is not just, I'm going to go to treatment for 30 days and I'm going to be done, okay? And you know what? If you do go to treatment for 30 days and you relapse 3 weeks later and you go back to treatment, okay, you don't lose all the knowledge that you gained in those 30 days that you were there. It wasn't a failure. And I think that's what I'm trying to the message I'm really trying to own in on lately, because I'm seeing it in real time, is that just because you went to a treatment center and then you ended up relapsing doesn't mean that treatment center failed you. It just means you still have more learning to do.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we live in a world where insurance companies have dictated the time in which you should be in treatment. Insurance companies aren't looking at data, okay? They're just looking at their own pocketbooks, because it takes more than 30 days, right? It takes extended care, right? So when you go into detox, you go into residential, maybe it's PHP after, and then it's IOP, and then it's other counseling, extended counseling after that, right? It's a continuum of care to get better.
It's a way to live.
It is truly a way to live.
Yeah.
I introduced a new modality of shamanism through deep breath work a year ago, and I have a lot of time in recovery. And it's a modality that has saved me in so many other ways that other ones can't.
I love
right?
it. Yeah.
Like we have to add certain aspects. But I'm really trying to get people to understand that relapse is nothing to be shameful of. We don't expect perfection in any other facet of our lives. So how can we tell somebody with mental health issues, you have to be perfect? And the idea of perfectionism doesn't exist where we're at.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
I mean, it's it's tough, right? Like, I don't know really how to answer that one, other than the fact that like I try to have them focus on just the next step.
Right.
Just the next. We'll worry about the big wreckage, all that stuff later. Right. I try to simplify the moment of the initial call to like just the next step. Right. And then we'll worry about that kind of stuff, because we can, make a mountain or molehill into a mountain out of like, and talk us out of not going. Right.
For sure.
Come on in. Yeah, it's not going to be all that great, but the work, it's so worth it on this side, right? And like, that's kind of what I try to help break it down and focus on them. It's like, next step, right? We'll worry about that stuff when you're here.
Let me ask you this.
Sure.
And I don't ask anybody what their length of time in recovery is. That's my big thing. I know everybody's just like, I know. I'm just not for counting time. I don't celebrate birthdays anymore. And I know that there's the whole saying, yeah, but Brandon, if you show how long they've continuous sobriety, it shows the newcomer that they can string that together too. I'm like, no, bullshit. You know what my answer to that is? No, they should just look at my life and being like, dude, I want what he has. Yeah. Done. They shouldn't.
Which they do, by the way, Brandon. They do.
They don't have to be like, well, Brandon has 15 years, and if they have 6 months, the reason why I don't is because I don't want them to think that they have to wait till they hit year 15 to have what I want. So don't know how much time I have. Yeah. Okay, I don't share it anymore. Don't know how much time I have. Just look at B and be like, yo, dude, he's dope. I want his life. And that's all that matters, right? And I'll tell him, well, I'm fucking sober, and these are the methods that I do to stay sober, right? But I tell your people every Saturday, listen, I'm not absolved from a relapse. Shit, I relapsed in 2020. So like, I'm no different, right? I'm still an addict, still recovered addict, like trying to make my way in the world too. But I do want to talk to you about this, because some people, JT, there's a stigma about treatment centers, right?
What? That's crazy.
Yeah, like I have oh God, I got to pack my bags. Right? Yeah. This is what people plan.
Yeah.
I got to pack my bags into a suitcase, and I have to go live in another house in residential treatment. Like, then I must really be fucked up, right? There's that stigma out there. It's the reason why I never went to treatment,
right?
A long time ago, because I was like, dude, I'll lose my job. Yeah. Like, people are like, you got to go to treatment, man. You must be really messed up, right? There's that stigma of the people out there. But I do tell people, if I could go back and do it all over again, the first thing I would have ever done was go to treatment to begin laying a solid foundation using every modality that they offer, rather than what I did was just go to meetings. And if you're watching or listening, do not do what I did and just think that you can go to meetings and it'll be great. I white-knuckled so many aspects of those first few years that were misery, that had I gone to treatment, EMDR may have been available, one-on-one therapy, somatic experiencing, neurofeedback. There's so many other modalities out there that are offered. Now, I want to talk about those folks who are like, I'm not ready to pack my bags and go to treatment, because I'm a big believer, and I think you will be too, is meeting people where they're at.
Yeah.
And, a place like Springboard that really does focus on substance use, right? Drugs and alcohol, right?
Yeah.
How do you meet people where they're at? And what are some of the services that you guys provide at Springboard to do that?
Great question, man. And like, what I can say from the initial call. Okay, so I love these kind of like people are like, I got this, and I got all these things, right? And I'm like, I kind of just try a little flip. You get to go to treatment, right? Like, people are dying left and right. And people are miserable left and right. Like, we help to alleviate anything from FMLA to their job. They're protected by laws. Like, we can make it so seamless for somebody to come in with all the excuses, everything, that, again, to have them in for an experience, right? I try to just flip that little moment, when they're like, man, I don't know, this and that. Well, you get to, right? And all these opportunities, and every case is different because they have kids or they have family or whatnot, right? And then, like, you just make it real time with them. And like, it's not, when I talk to them, it's not like, hey, you can come to us, we love you. We don't need you, we want you.
Right.
Kind of thing, right? Where you can talk to other places and it's maybe a different experience. I don't know. I love all treatment centers. They're great. But we try to be different in that aspect. And one other thing, that really identifies us, something that we do that some people know and some people don't, is that we have a resource center to where I mean, our business model is commercial. That's what we do. But we also help people who call from out of state find places. We help people on access, no insurance. And real quick, I was telling Brandon about somebody we helped from Texas to get a bus ticket, to get a grant, to get transitional living. Didn't even come to us, right? Like, that's just some of the stuff. We'll follow up with people, in a week. Like, don't care what kind of insurance they have, So like, that's another little, detail that we do. But I wanted to talk about like the housing staff and stuff like that. Like,
right.
If you don't mind, real quick, like I start off as a BHT,
right?
So like
behavioral tech,
yes, behavioral health technician. And like, I started out on the front lines, the ground level, so I can really. Those people are way more important than what I do. Okay,
they do the dirty work.
Yeah, like the chefs,
the nitty gritty,
the peer support, the cooks, the all the people. So shout out to them. We couldn't do this without you. But like we have such a tight knit kind of thing, and like I'm super excited about what we're doing. If anybody like has any questions, I'm sure I can shameless plug all over.
Oh yeah, no. We trust me, it's all on the bottom
it's
bottom of the video right now. How to reach out to Springboard but
it's like one of those
reach out and ask questions. And even if you have questions,
exactly.
And that's the whole thing. It's like just making that phone call, educate yourself about what options are out there. Because listen, when I say meet people where they're at, I really do mean that. So there are situations where you just go into PHP, or maybe IOP. Maybe IOP is where you start, and maybe you work backwards.
Yep.
Maybe you work in reverse. Maybe like, let's dip your toe into some IOP 3 days a week from 5 to 8 p.m., whatever program that that treatment center is offering, to say, let's just get them in the door.
Yeah.
To get them to understand how severe their issues are.
Well, then we can build a rapport with them at that level, right? God forbid if they do relapse, right? We're here to be like, it's safe,
right?
So we're meeting them where they're at on what they like. Sometimes they're just really like, I want to do this. We can't like talk them. Okay, cool. Let's do that, right? If it's medically and clinically appropriate, by the way, right?
Of course.
And then God forbid if something happens, they're in our care. We can help them. They feel safe with us already. Like, so that's very important, you know?
Yeah, because you guys do offer what? You offer residential?
PHP, IOP, outpatient, virtual IOP, evening IOP, day IOP, 3 to 5, 3 nights and 5 days for either IOP session. So, and we love to have a conversation, like you said, with anybody, right? No pressure. We're here for honestly a resource, and if we can help you with our place, great. That's what we're trying to do. I mean, but if we can get you somewhere else, that's our goal.
When I had your class in this last Saturday, one thing struck out to me, and I always post pictures on my my Instagram and my Facebook on social media, and look how I was so struck at the diversity of this last class on Saturday. If I had to guesstimate, I think I saw at least 1 or 2 women in their early 60s.
Yeah.
And I had a dude who was maybe 26,
Yeah.
And so what was really beautiful, there was this one woman in her 60s. She and I were just kind of chatting after she created artwork. And I thought it was so beautiful. Because a lot of people in their 60s may just say, F it.
Yeah.
But what I want to tell people is that like you can get sober and change your life at any age.
Yeah.
This woman's in her 60s, and even if she lives till she's 85, those last 20 plus years can be the best,
Absolutely.
And so I just really thought that was really cool to see such a diverse group.
Yeah. Well, no, I appreciate that. And like what it also does show, Brandon, is that like this disease, affliction, whatever you want to call it, affects everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the conversation that like this stuff is bringing up, right? That doesn't care your race, creed, social, economic, what your dad did. It doesn't discriminate. So we have the conversation to bring it out, right? It's not taboo. We bring it out of the dark into the light, and we can address it.
And I think what we're seeing too, and you can even check on this. I mean, you can even chat about this and extend the conversation. Is that listen, we are still, even though I no longer watch the news and I don't read, I'm still detoxing. Okay, People just understand. I'm living in my own little naive bubble. I'm living my best life, and it has nothing to do with reading or watching the news anymore. So I choose to be naive, and I'm okay with that. I do know there is still a pandemic happening, going on, and I think what I have seen is, from the mental health aspect side, isolation is worse than the virus.
Yeah.
I have seen too much relapse in the last 2 years. The numbers prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Too much overdose.
Oh, yeah.
In the last 2 years. And at some point, people have to say, isolating people is dangerous and it's deadly as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like one of the most challenging times in modern history, right?
Yeah.
Like, what do we look back in our past? What did we do last time? Oh, everybody just died, And I'm not trying to be more. That's just what happened.
What happened.
Like, we're adjusting to this pandemic in an age where it's just different, And like isolation has been a very challenging situation with addicts. I've seen it as well. People with years going out. People, I know somebody like this mom just lost her daughter. I was working with her for like 3 years the whole time. Went into a hot tub one more time and just passed away. So like, isolation is definitely. I mean, for any human being, any
human being, it starts to take a toll. But those, and that's what I'm trying to tell people. I'm like, I have seen people with long-term sobriety lose their shit during this pandemic. Like, and I've seen people, and that's really why I'm on this huge push of removing the shame around relapse, because when I relapsed in 2020 during the pandemic, right? Not only was it pandemic, then I was covering all the George Floyd stuff and then the politics in Arizona as a news anchor, just getting threats on the daily from viewers.
I remember you telling me that,
because their wires were crossed, right? They're dealing with mental health issues. Unfortunately, I just became a target of it, right? But that being said, I relapsed. That shame of the relapse put a gun in my hand and pointing it at the temple of my head because I relapsed. I was carrying the burden of shame, right? Yeah. And so, granted, I lived through that experience, and I lived through that experience, I think, to have the platform that I do to speak out about it, saying, yo, I relapsed, everyone. I did, okay? Let's stop with the jaw dropping when somebody tells you they've relapsed. Because when you drop your jaw, being, oh my God, so-and-so relapsed, so-and-so relapsed.
They internalize it.
Oh my God, yeah. That only adds to my shame.
Yep.
Yeah. The reaction of others, where it should be like, I want us to get to a point where we normalize relapse. And not that I'm encouraging relapse, but normalizing the conversation about relapse. When somebody comes up to you and saying, hey, listen, I relapsed the other day.
Mm-hmm. I want it to be that quick. Not 2 months down the line.
Right. Yeah. I relapsed the other day, and it's not the life I want to live. And I want to just be like, okay, dude, all good. Yeah. Like, what do you need?
Yeah.
Like, that should be my relapse. Yeah. That should be my reaction, not like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? Yeah. Da da da. Because that was reaction to a lot of my friends.
Yeah.
Brandon relapse.
Well, yeah.
How could Brandon relapse?
And like you said, right? Like, God forbid, don't suggest relapsing. But if you do, right? Like, let's get back on it quick.
Right.
Like,
okay. Like, I almost look at him like, okay.
Sometimes it can be your best lesson. And sometimes it can. But
and
you
said
people, that.
I always say that. I always say, not all storms come to disrupt or destroy your life. Sometimes that storm comes to clear your path.
Yeah.
Now, take the word storm out and put relapse in.
Yeah.
Not all relapses come to destroy your life. Sometimes that relapse occurs because it needs to wake you up and clear your path. The aha moment, because you haven't had it yet.
Yeah.
And I'm a true believer that that's exactly why I had that relapse. My higher power was like, this is not your path. This is not your journey. This is not your purpose. And in order for you to have your purpose revealed to you, here you go.
Some pain.
Here's some pain.
So it's a great motivator, man.
100%. So my higher power is like, he'll survive this. It won't be pretty, but he'll survive it. Throw a relapse at him. And it did. And it revealed my purpose, because now I get to go help people. Right. And I wouldn't be doing, and I tell people, I wouldn't have the life I have today with Art of Our Soul sitting here with you had I not relapsed.
Right.
I would still be reading the news, miserable. And that's just the truth. So stop looking at a relapse as some horrible thing, because it could end up being your biggest fucking blessing. Yeah. And that's just
forgive yourself a little bit. The people do forgive yourself. Like, we are our worst enemies on a lot of things, on self-deprecation and stuff like that. It's like, Joe, that's what I tell them. It's like, just lower, like, just forgive yourself, man. Like,
yes,
like, come on in.
Compassion.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing. My shaman told me recently. He goes, Brandon, you need to start talking to yourself the way you speak to people when they come into your art studio with that
like
same level of compassion. Because he goes, I have a feeling you treat a lot of them with more compassion than you do yourself.
Wise words, man.
Right? Because we can beat ourselves up. And it's just like, I can ask you, JT, do you talk to yourself the way you talk to a mother of a child?
No, not all the time, man.
You don't.
No,
we don't.
I wish I did.
Well, yeah, all right. That's the way we speak
to
ourselves.
And we're supposed to say we do, right? Like I'm great, man. I'm doing great. When like literally like, hey man, I'm having a messed up day kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah. Being like, just, you know what? I'm not all with it today.
Yeah, but I'm still here.
But I'm just not all with it today, you know, and just even saying that kind of lets it out a little bit. But compassion is a huge thing. And I think that that's one of the things when you are looking for a treatment center is looking for a place that is compassionate.
Right. No, absolutely. And to touch on that, like they had me go through the whole process as a client, which was never done that before. Right. So like I'm doing groups, I'm doing equine, yoga, all the stuff, but I'm also doing family groups. We love to work with families, bring them in. Our clinical director was there at like 7:30 at night, you know, like that just showed like that's the kind of details that we put into our treatment. Right. And like now I can really like talk about the program and like, you know, like
because you lived the experience.
Exactly.
That's really, I love that.
Kind of cool, right?
Like
that.
You're going to go through like a month of treatment to understand like what it is, you know, through the processes to kind of understand.
So I can tell them and talk to them, right? Like I have my own experiences in treatment
for sure
and whatnot, but like if I can talk and relate and tell them like how it is the springboard experience, right? Because that's what I want as many people to experience.
Okay, so as we begin to close here, if you follow JT, if you've seen the picture of me on when I met JT at another treatment center a while back, when I was building my program, you do a pose. I call it what pose is it? I call it the Heisman or not the Heisman,
Superman.
Kind of,
the Superman,
the Heisman
superhero kind of thing.
Explain what the meaning is behind that.
All right, so honestly, it was like an innocent time when I just started marketing, right? And I was thinking how you can like just promote yourself and stuff like that, right? So I was just taking pictures with guests or like do a tour, and then I just did like this pose, right? And then the person who I was with did it as well, and it was crazy because like people started like, you know, noticing it, right? Like noticing, oh, you're doing all this treatment center stuff, the pose, this and that. So I kind of just like, oh, hey, the more awareness that I can bring from a pose to get people to like, hey, there's this, there's that, there's resources, like the more that it can help people. So it's my thing now. Like I kind of do it and people recognize it, right? Like it's kind of neat, you know, in that aspect. And like I'm even looking into doing something else, right? Like Heroes for Recovery, where it's like a nonprofit that like, it doesn't have to be just recovery, right? I'll take pictures with people in non-recovery at other events and stuff like that, but it just brings the overall awareness that like people can recover. You know, there are solid people and most beautiful people in recovery who are on the right track and stuff like that. They will give you anything in the sense of,
true.
Yeah, they're great. So like that's kind of where it started, and like I'm just gonna keep riding it, you know, out, and like who knows, right? Like, so.
That's good. Hey, my whole thing is like if you're getting people to talk, that's the most important thing. If you're getting people to talk and take notice, that's all that's what begins the conversation. And that's so important.
And if a picture does it with me doing a silly pose,
it makes people stop and scroll, right?
Yeah.
When people are scrolling, it makes them just stop.
Timeline interruption.
Timeline interruption. And I call it timeline disruption when I put it in my art. Timeline disruption.
Right.
I know, because you know what? All my posts now on my social media are all people with artwork and doing those things, because you know what? From what I hear, the feedback is they're like, thank you for disrupting my timeline. It's so negative and toxic. I'm like, God, stop following news outlets and doing those things, like if it's that toxic on there.
Right.
But yeah, we're living in a very toxic world, so disrupt. Disrupt the timelines with
There's
something
gonna be
fun.
Pictures and poses and all sorts of stuff. So
I love it. Well, listen, if you're looking for more information about Springboard Recovery, they're on my podcast monthly. But also all the information has been there at the bottom of your screen. It's their intake number. If you have any information, if you have any questions, go ahead and give that number a call. They'll answer your questions. They'll meet you where you're at. Maybe meet your son or your daughter where they're at in their road to recovery. Just start somewhere. Start somewhere. If you think you have a problem, you likely do. JT, Good to see you, my man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And Springboard Recovery, they're here every Saturday. So if you do go to Springboard and you do go into their programs, you can end up in the art studio every Saturday and create some badass artwork with their clients here. It's always super fun. My Saturday classes are wild and they're crazy.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've experienced that as well as part of the.
Yeah, so we have fun. Yeah. So it's a good time and it's awesome. So I'm grateful for Springboard for doing that and also believing in the arts as a part of a modality in the whole paradigm of treatment.
We love what you do here, man. Our clients are phenomenal. Like they love coming here. Like we can't thank you enough for the partnership, man. So
thank you. No, I'm truly grateful. I'm truly grateful. All right, everyone. We'll see you back here for the next episode.